All right, this video is to show you guys how to make the body for your puppet. So how I have the portion of felt that's on my hand right now, that's what we're calling the body. And so this is gonna show you exactly how to make that so that you can use that for the body of your puppet. Okay, so you guys will get a pattern like this, and it even has the instructions of basically what to do for the first part on there. So whatever fabric that you want to use, you need 2 pieces of it, and it needs to be big enough so that you can set this on there. So you're going to need 2 pieces of fabric cut out into this shape here. You're going to end up sewing those 2 pieces together. So it says even right here on this pattern, first trace the shape 2 times on 2 squares of fabric. So here are my 2 squares of fabric. This one's ripped a little bit right here, doesn't matter. I'm just gonna trace around it. I'm gonna trace it with Sharpie. So I'm gonna set this thing down and I'm gonna trace around it. First one's done. Second one's done. Okay, so second step is to draw a dotted line exactly like the ones on here. So you can see that there are 2 openings on the body. The neck, that has to be open so that you can stick your puppet's head down into there, and then that's where your finger will go into the puppet's head. And then obviously the bottom also has to be open. So these dotted lines, so one goes right from down here and then ends up on one side of the neck, and same thing on the other. That is where you will be sewing those 2 sides, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead on both of these, draw my dotted line. If you have a darker fabric or black fabric, instead of using a Sharpie, you can use white oil pastel and it will show up and still allow you to do the same exact thing. So you can do dots like I'm doing, or you can do a dotted line. Just again, leave the neck open and the bottom of the body open. I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. If you don't know how far away to draw this dotted line, look at the example, and it shows you exactly how far you need to draw it. Okay, at this step, then I can cut out both of these shapes. So you want to cut on the solid line. Take your time on cutting because I only have so much fabric, and so if you mess up, I may or may not have more fabric to help you out, so really take your time. Cutting on the solid line the whole way around both shapes. All right, all of these scraps, we're gonna keep all of the scraps just in case anybody needs them for details for other pieces, like for example on my banana guy, the hands, I use little scrap pieces, so we'll set those in the scrap container. And then you guys have these 2 pieces. So you want the dotted lines to be on the outside. So you're gonna line these 2 things up as best you possibly can. And then everybody's gonna get a needle. I only have enough needles, 1 per student, so please, please, please do not lose them and use them appropriately. Don't make me regret giving them to you guys to use. I've never had any problems in the past, and I'd really like to keep it that way. So please use your best judgment when working with such a sharp tool. Okay, so you guys will get some string to sew with. Probably be using string, so it's a little bit thicker than thread. Thread is really thin. And what you're gonna do is put it in a knot. Now, there are a bunch of different knots that you could do. I think the easiest to make sure it's a really big knot is to kind of fold it a little bit at the end like this. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Fold it a little bit at the end, and then it's doubled up, so when you make the knot, when you bring the end through the loop, it's a bigger knot, okay? So I am happy to assist you guys with that. Also, then you need to thread the needle. We never ever put the string in our mouth That's really unsanitary. So I will have some little pieces of paper for you guys to help thread the needle. All right, so here's the example of the little piece of paper that's gonna help you thread the needle. And I call these the hot dog buns. You can see how it fits inside of the hole in the needle. The hole in the needle is called the eye. And so basically think of this like a hot dog bun, this little piece of folded paper, and then think of the end of the string, the side without the knot, think of that as the hot dog, and you're gonna set it in the hot dog bun. You don't want the end hanging out. Notice that you can't see the end. And then you're gonna push the piece of paper through the eye of the needle. Once you push it through, you pull it out the other side, magically, your needle is threaded. Now you do not want to knot this. You do not want to knot this then to keep it in there, because then you won't be able to pull it through the fabric, okay? That knot will not allow you to pull it through the fabric. We already have one knot at the very end of the string, but then it's looped through the eye, and then you could just move it up and down on there, okay? You want it to be like that. So now we're gonna follow along with the dotted lines. So these two things are together, and I think it's the easiest. I'm gonna kind of move this camera back a little bit. It's the easiest to have this kind of hanging off the edge of the table, so then you can go down and not like poke your finger out. So I start at the end of the one side and I'm gonna work my way up. So I'm just gonna go up and down and up and down and up and down. So now I'm on the bottom. I'm gonna go up through both pieces, pull my string the whole way through, down through both pieces, up. So I'm basically creating a dotted line with my stitches, and you want to keep them, I don't know, about 1/4 of an inch apart. You're gonna do this up and around one side, and then you're gonna have to make a knot at the end, make another knot, and then do it on the other side. All right, so I finished half. So I sewed from the bottom the whole way up and around the arm, and I'm at the one side of the neck, and now I need to make sure that I knot this so that it doesn't fall apart. So I'm gonna go back through a stitch that I just did already, and I made a big loop, and I'm gonna go through that loop, and I'm gonna do that a couple of times before I snip off this extra string. And if you're not sure how to do this, please just ask. Definitely nice and tight. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. So I'm gonna fold this string in half at the bottom just a little bit to make a nice big knot. And then I'm gonna loop it and bring it through there. If you need help with that, just let me know. I am not gonna knot anything up here on this side. And then I'm gonna sew from the bottom. That same pattern, up and down, making like a dotted line of stitches the whole way up to the top. All right, so I finished sewing the other side. I also knotted that off. Again, I left the neck open and the bottom open so I can put my hand in there. I'm gonna trim off some of these extra strings, and then you need to flip the whole thing inside out. So all of these stitches end up being on the inside. So at first when you flip it inside out, like the hands are kind of like stuck. So you just need to take a little bit of time and like work them out. So you can put your finger inside and press them from the inside and just slowly work them right side out. Because again, you want all of those stitches hidden on the inside, just kind of like how our clothes are stitched, right? The seam, the stitched part is on the inside. So I got one arm out, working the other arm out. Okay, so Here we go. I flipped the whole thing out, and again, this top part is where, that's the neck. That's where your sculpture will get attached onto eventually, and it will even, should fit right in there. Like so.